All right, gang. First of all, thanks for coming to the Excerpt channel and checking out this excerpt, clip, if you will, of an ASP podcast episode from the recent past. So it's not a whole episode. Whole episodes are available only on the app in the video form. You can listen anywhere you want, any podcast outlet, listen to the audio version, not a problem. For the video version, if you want to watch the whole thing, get the app. It is literally free to watch on the app. No payment, no subscription required. Go over there, check it out, and I hope you enjoy the clip. Well, alrighty, gang. Welcome back to the Active Self-Protection Podcast. I am once again your host, Mike Bulliver, and I remain, with God's will and your listenership, your favorite former Fed. With me today,
Palm pepper spray is next generation OC spray. It's hot at 1.4% major capsaicinoids, and its modular design means you can customize it exactly to you. 3 different setups, lots of different color combinations. You can make it exactly as you like. And the flip top safety prevents accidental discharges. It's 10 to 12 foot range and 25 half-second blasts. Make sure that you can keep that long range eye poke at long range. I trust Palm OC and I recommend it for everyone for self-defense.
This is our first repeat guest. Welcome back to Tony. Tony is lives in the greater Plano, Illinois area, which is kind of near Chicago. He is a social worker at a school. Tony, is that right?
Yeah, at a middle school.
A middle school social worker. So let me just say for the record, I could not do your job. Absolutely not. Middle school kids, nope, couldn't do it. Couldn't hang out with them. I'm glad there are people like you that can do this job because I couldn't. I'd absolutely pull my hair out. Well,
It's got a little down here.
Yeah, out of my chin. So how have you been, my friend?
Been doing all right. It's been a stressful couple of weeks, but things are rolling and the school year started up, so yeah, things are going all right.
Very good. So you were on the show previously. Give the folks a real quick recap of what your story was the first time.
Sure. So the first time I was on was because I was doing a dog sitting gig for a family friend of ours who lives pretty close to me, but not super close. And so I was taking care of their dog, and I took the dog for a walk. Unfortunately, there was a family, so a mother and a daughter, walking their dogs, and the daughter lost control of their dogs, and that dog was a fairly large breed boxer, and the dog I was taking care of was also not a small breed, an Australian Shepherd. Long story short, they kind of got into it a little bit. I was carrying my firearm at the time. I put my hand on the firearm. I contemplated pulling it out and doing like a shot into the dirt to try to scare the other dog off. I'm super happy I did not do that. Then the dog I was taking care of ended up getting off the leash, kind of like she kind of wore her way and wiggled her way out of the harness that she was in, and then took off down across the street and took some cover in some bushes. And then finally mom snapped out of it and was like, oh, I should probably do something about this, and came and got her dog, which was nice. Needless to say, I've been a fan of Palm ever since. I unfortunately did not have that at the time. So yeah, that's kind of how the first incident went down.
Very good. My memory is officially refreshed by that. Thank you, sir. So let's talk really quick about being a school social worker. I was not joking when I said I couldn't do that job. What sorts of things does a school social worker do? Now, my sister, full disclosure, in Maryland, was a social worker at a ER in a hospital for a long time. That's a nuts job. That's a crazy job to have to do. And she more recently did work at a school. And she'll call me and vent from time to time. That's a tough job. Sometimes a really tough job. So kind of give people an idea of what. Obviously, we're not going to name any names or talk about specific kids, but like, what's a day in the life like for someone who does your job?
You'd be surprised how often I get this question, and yet I can hardly give it a just answer, I feel like. So the particular school I work at is studying in a typical school year, just under 1,000 kids. This year, we're actually pretty low from that. We're like mid 700s to high 700s, so still not an insignificant amount. And I'm super fortunate and blessed, I will say, that we have a large contingent of clinicians at our school. So got 3 awesome counselors and 2 other social workers and a school psychologist. So we're pretty well staffed, which is nice. As far as the day-to-day stuff goes, my primary responsibility is to special education students. So I have a caseload of about 20 or so. that I am responsible for seeing every single week. Some of those kids I also do kind of check-ins with their teachers and stuff like that too. Some of those kids also have behavior plans, so I'm kind of in charge of managing a lot of those pieces and then doing any crisis response. But all of those kids, I usually do some sort of proactive teaching of either social skills, so like how to make friends, keep friends, that sort of thing, or managing emotions, or just like responsible decision making. So those are kind of the key areas we hit on. But on top of that, we do a lot of crisis interventions, so like suicide assessments, homicidal assessments, self-harm assessments. And we're kind of the glue of the school is kind of the way I like to put it. So if they need, me to sub, if they need me to fill in somewhere, if they need us to help break up a fight, like that's all within the wheelhouse of the day to day. So
Yeah, that sounds like a tough job, frankly. And I'm glad I don't have to do it. I'm glad you're out there doing the thing. People would always tell me, thank me for my service and what an incredibly hard job. And I never felt that way about it. Frankly, I loved doing what I did when I was in law enforcement. And I'm sure you probably feel the same way about your job. Like it's a labor of love, and something that looks terrible from the outside as far as an type of employment goes might be fantastic for the person doing it and rewarding. So hopefully that's
yeah,
your experience.
absolutely. It's funny you say that. I actually have an intern this year, and I'm kind of trying to throw her into the fire a little bit and be like, hey, if this is for you, great. Like, you're going to pick it up and run with it. And if not, like, that's okay too. But it's better to know it now than trying to get into the field. And a lot of us burn out within the first 5 years. I'm happy to report I'm on my 8th school year. So,
As I like to say on the main channel, 100%. I love the idea that a new person is being told by a veteran like yourself, listen, this may or may not be for you. And if it's not for you, by the way, that's okay. And it's really important that if it's not for you, that you don't do the thing. It's like I always say, if you know you don't want to be a parent, please don't be a parent. Don't have kids. If you already know you don't really want kids. Excuse me. But also, if law enforcement's not for you and you recognize that, hey, go do something else. There's no shame in that. If being a school social worker isn't for you, go do something else. There's no shame in that, because the people that you're serving rely on you being invested in your work and caring about what you do and going to work every day with a positive attitude. And if you can't do that, that's not good for the people that you're serving, in your case, the students. So I'm glad they have you, Tony, quite frankly.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And actually, kind of mentioning the police thing, I was actually one of those cases where that's initially what I wanted to do. I had spent my entire time leading up to that doing like explorers and all that, had never gotten exposure to a different department. And I ended up doing a ride along while I was in college still, trying to pursue that dream. And ended up finding out like, hey, this isn't the department that I would want to work for. And it's like, oh, wait, this is like how most departments run things. This probably isn't the job for me. Thus, I fell into social work. So,
right. I mean, I feel like social work, ER nurse, and law enforcement are, and paramedic, firefighter, they're all kind of kindred, spirits. They all have the same basic motive, which is to help people, to try to help people who are in a bad spot. So, good for you. I'm proud of you. So your more recent story, which thankfully you wrote to me, I don't know, a week or two ago. How long has it been since you wrote the email?
Looking about, almost 2 weeks.
Okay.
And actually, ironically, I wrote it in the vet, which we'll get to that later. But I have some time. Let me reach out.
Right. So yeah, I mean, the good news is, for the same reason that I have goldfish brain and can't remember the city that our thing occurred in on the main channel 5 seconds after John told it to me, I also don't remember what you wrote. So that's a good thing, because I do want to hear this as though it's the first time. So it kind of is the first time. Think of me as Dory from Finding Nemo. That's kind of where I'm at with my memory here lately. So just kind of walk us through what happened. How long ago did this happen? What happened? And what led you to the conclusion there was potentially trouble?
Yeah. So the incident itself occurred, I'd say, about 3 weeks ago at this point.
Okay.
So it's still fairly fresh. With that said, I do have some notes that I'm going to reference. So for viewers that are watching on the app, which I would highly recommend, if I'm looking up, that's what's going on. So I kind of want to give a little bit of background before I kind of get into the incident itself.